I'm in Max. You are listening to Happy Jack's RPG Podcast. I'm in Max. Pursuing the RPG hobby with reckless abandon.
All the time.
I'm doing this all by myself, so bear with me. Hi.
Hi.
You can't see us yet.
Nope,
Hello.
we're talking.
Hello.
Yeah, we're
But
talking.
now you can.
Hi.
My headphones don't work. Okay, I'm not going to wear these.
What's up, man?
Thank you for joining us for season 23, episode 11 of Happy Jack's RPG Podcast. My name is Stu.
I'm Sam.
I'm Abria.
Start.
Sorry, Canada.
Damn it,
Sorry,
Canada. It's not even sorry there.
Oh, I'd like to thank Easy Roller Dice for sponsoring the last two episodes.
Yeah.
You go to easyrollerdice.com/dragon dice for their Kickstarter for their metal dice of ancient dragons.
Can I see them?
I hid.
You had to hide them.
Because everyone's trying to steal them now that the commercials are over. So I hid
I'm
them.
also on team, like, I'm gonna get those fucking gold ones.
And these are your friends
Yeah.
who steal from you.
Swear to God, I'm gonna fight them. I can't wait to get
I'm
more.
thinking about using them for giveaways for listeners.
You could certainly try.
Abria's
You'll
like,
have to find them.
I need to make sure these dice are taken and given a loving home because I know I'm just
Exactly.
going to give them to some random for me.
Right.
Hashtag no randos.
Exactly.
You know, we'd like to thank them for sponsoring
Yes.
the last two episodes.
Thank you.
In this episode of Happy, I don't have an actual paper because I only printed out 3.
mine?
No, it's fine. In this episode, I have it up here. In this episode of Happy Jack's RPG Podcast, we're going to discuss coming up with player character concepts, which I think we've done several times before, but we have a different group of people. So I have
Yeah.
to get different perspectives on it.
Weirder choices will be made.
Fengrong,
Way
or
out here.
Fengrong, writes in about GMPCs, and Riff sends us a horror story. But first, if you'd like to email us, you can email us at happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. That's happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. We're also on all the social media, happyjacksrpg, all one word, and that's Twitter and Instagram and the Facebag, and also MeWe, which I forgot to post this week. I haven't posted in 2 weeks. I'm posting twice a month.
I don't know what MeWe is.
I don't
MeWe!
either.
He's
Is
the only
it-
one on it, so.
Yeah.
It's different from the Shiwi, right?
I don't know
Yeah.
what a Shiwi is either.
It's she, her. Are we doing a pronouns thing right now?
No, it's
no,
MeWe.
No, I know.
The Shiwi is the thing that you need if you go to Wasteland.
Yeah. I want it so badly. I just want to be able to
Emma
pee
Thompson has
like
a whole story about the Shiwi, actually, and she says it's remarkable because you just get wee all over yourself, she said. It just sprays it everywhere.
that. Does
Not
it?
if you use it right.
Well, it's Emma
Her
Thompson.
aim is
I'm not going to
very
argue
bad.
with
Get
it.
it together, Emma Thompson.
Just like practice.
Well, I think
You know what it
basically she
is,
was
though.
setting up...
Well, I'm guessing what it is.
Yeah. You know.
I don't understand the mechanicals
Right.
of it. but
Funnel
I'm
at an
guessing-
angle.
Okay. all
Yeah.
right.
It's like a highlight thing, but it has a tube, so your feet comes out.
See, I think it's mostly like astronaut stuff. It's got suctions and tubes and wires.
How do you think those work?
Suctions and tubes and wires, yeah.
All right.
Why don't they just install a catheter? Sorry.
You know what? I had one of those once. It's dope. And you're like, I'm done peeing, and I didn't have to do anything.
And I didn't even realize
Yeah,
it.
it's dope. I don't hate them.
I've actually never had a catheter.
I did when I
It's
was
different for guys.
I think a catheter is unpleasant, regardless of gender.
It's how they extract information out of prisoners.
You were right. We did make it immediately.
Yay!
Yes.
Cheers.
I'm blaming.
You should have the weird ones on more. What'd you call me?
I'm blaming Abria for this.
Good.
As you should. So anyway, that's the social medias we're on.
There we go. Everybody's
It's gonna be a
furiously
long one.
googling Shiwi
Yep.
and Emma Thompson.
Yep.
And this is the last episode where we're going to talk about this. HappyJacks.org/rainbow if you would like to donate to the Rainbow Railroad fundraiser. Last I checked, we were at 6,000 something.
Be so cool if it spiked
That's
at 7,
awesome.
wouldn't it?
Yeah, get to 7, y'all. Then okay.
Couple more
how about
days.
this? If we get to 7K, I will stop trying to steal the dice. Because I will find them. I'm a thorough searcher.
They might want you to
Thorough.
steal the dice, though. Yeah, you are.
That's possible. They might.
It's a win-win for me. Like,
That's true.
either we do more charity, or I get to interrogate Stu with a catheter.
Oh, and there's one other announcement. Oh, that's right. Kimmy told me to mention our total downloads for APs and the Friday night shows, going back a long way, have finally reached 3 million downloads.
3
Wow.
million downloads.
That's a lot
So
of
because it's a
downloads.
milestone, and it just happened in the last day.
Nice.
Oh,
I think
snap.
either today or yesterday.
So thank you all.
Thank you.
Woohoo.
So we're going to have some kind of giveaway. I don't know what it's going to be yet.
It won't be the
Dragon
fucking
dice?
It could be the
You
dragon
can
dice.
help it.
Yeah, but
Perhaps it'll be like one set of the dragon dice.
It'll be like
if that's what's left.
the 1d8 I forgot to steal from you.
Right.
What do we give it to all 3 million viewers? How does
break it.
We'll have like a
Is that how a
Break
giveaway
it.
works?
we'll have like a contest. I don't know.
Okay.
Because I've got a pile of swag to.
I'm going to leave that in your capable hands because I'm already confused at 3 million.
Isn't that cool?
That's a lot.
It is
That's
a
a lot
lot.
of
So
zeros.
good.
And it technically doesn't actually include all of our downloads because we only started tracking on the system we're on like in season 3 or 4.
Well, then this is a lie, so fuck it.
No, it's
Well-
just it's a squish. It's like Voyager when it's leaving. It's not quite. We don't know where the heliosphere stops and space starts. We don't really. It's still impressive.
It's probably like 3.0001 million
Okay, well,
or something like
I'll
that.
let that go, I guess. I'm trying to search for the hill I'm going to die on.
All right.
I don't think it's
Not
going to
that
be.
one.
That's only a hill.
Roll the dice.
World War
Still
One.
dice.
Breeze.
Keep
Nope. Trent.
So the first thing I wanted to talk about was coming up with player character concepts. It's something that we've talked about 2 or 3 times, I think. But I want because we have. I'm sure we
At
have.
least.
I'm sure we have. But I'd like to kind of get other people's take on it because. I mean, you and I are on all the shows. I'm sure we were on all of the shows where we've talked about this. But neither of you, I don't think, have been on a show where we've
don't
talked
think
about
so,
this thing.
yeah.
You both come up with very unique characters. So I'd kind of like to get
We
your...
have a brand.
Right.
I hit that brand hard.
Right. I'd like to talk, like, how do you come up with a character? Do you come up with character concept first? Do you generate the character and then try to fit in it? You know, that's sort of how you get to from the point of having stuff on a character sheet to having the oddball characters you guys play.
The weirdness comes from inside.
Yeah, that's in me. The snark must flow.
Well, I'd like to preface this by saying that I think because you guys do make really oddball characters, and compared to Stu and I, you guys are relatively new to gaming.
Yeah.
Right? And so you guys, I think, approach characters from a completely different concept. I'm still rooted in Lord of the Rings and what's going to be useful for the party.
Yeah.
And that, that kind of thing. Well, we need a range. Or even if I'm playing a superhero, I still get rooted in Batman and Superman and Green Lantern and all of those tropes. And I don't
What
even
was
know
the last one you said?
Green Lantern.
Oh, it's because of Granola.
Yeah, Gremlin. The Gremlin hero.
Yeah.
And I'm still rooted in all those tropes, but I noticed that you guys are like, tropes? What tropes?
Fuck tropes. No, I think we just work off a slightly skewed set of tropes, but they're still there.
But that's really interesting because I mean I don't even know I'm doing it, and yet I'm making an Aragorn or I'm making Gimli again,
Right.
and I don't even know I'm doing it. So the next thing I know, I'm like, I made Wolverine. Damn it!
I think we've all done that. For what it's worth, everyone's done the like,
Yeah.
oh shit, I made Wolverine. All right, I'm Wolverine. I'm Wolverine.
I mean, to be fair, with Hild, I basically made Lady Thor, who's
Yeah.
slightly an Amazonian from Futurama. Just smash those two together, that's what you got.
Respect.
I generally, start with kind of, I guess a genre, like Viking or Cthulhu Mythos or something, and then just kind of brainstorm until I'm like, ooh, this is ridiculous. And that's when I know I'm in the right direction. Has to have a healthy dose of absurdity for me, because I'm like, this is going to be fun for me to play. And if
Yeah.
I'm having fun, then generally everyone else will probably also enjoy it.
Right. Yeah, I made last time I played a character was in the Demigods one shot that Kenny
Oh
ran.
my god, your pig farmer was a fucking
was
gift.
awesome. And in that case, I came up with the concept of the character first.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, I picked the playbook, which is kind of almost picking the whole character.
Yeah.
But and as I'm like, I don't remember which one it was. It was God of War.
Yeah,
it
you
was
picked-
God of War.
yeah.
Mars.
Yep,
Mars.
Mars.
Ares.
It was
or
Mars.
something. And as I'm going through the stuff you get, because you get to have an epic weapon or
Yeah.
an epic steed or something like that, I'm like, I want an epic steed, but I want it to be a giant pig.
There's always one screwball idea, and you're like, haha.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna play Hick. He's a pig farmer.
It's so good.
And it worked. It worked. And that's really rare. Usually when I play one-shots, I don't even know who that character is by the time the game's over.
Yeah.
It takes me a long time to figure out what a character is.
Mm-hmm.
We played a one-shot of Traveler, Mongoose Traveler First Edition that Dave ran, and it was a playtest for GameCon. Were you in that game?
I think Dave and I
he
might
was-
have been running it.
No, I think he ran it on his own.
Okay.
And this is before we were streaming.
Because Dave and I did a couple Traveler games.
Well, maybe.
But carry on.
This is in the before.
No, I think he was running it on his own. He was running it on his own.
Okay.
It was a long time
That's
ago.
fine.
They're doing the tell.
And I made it. And I you don't know what you're going to get with Traveler character because it's all
No.
randomly determined.
Yeah.
And your opinion on what you're going to get, or your hope on what you're going to get, has nothing to do with what you're actually going to have. And I ended up with a character with like Deception 3 or 4, which is astronomically high. It's like you're the best person at lying in the galaxy.
Oh, that game. You were very persuading. The one where Kimmy, this is one of the first Traveler games ever, and Kimmy ended up opening up the valves and flooding her entire planet. Right? It was that
Like
Traveler.
you.
It was a long time ago.
So
And it was a
classic
module.
Kimmy
A
move.
major city.
Yeah.
She killed hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah.
Kimmy.
Yes,
Yes.
she did.
Sometimes you got it.
With a critical failure on a roll.
And it was like one of the few Traveler modules out there. Yeah, it was Dave was reintroducing us to Traveler at that point because you and I hadn't played in like 20 years.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I remember now.
And so I had this character. I'm like, I don't even know who this guy is, but he lies really well. And it took me like 3 hours to get to the point where it's like, oh, I'm obviously a bullshit artist. Well, how come I didn't
Yeah,
think of that?
you're a con artist,
I'm
yeah.
leaning into that heavily,
Yeah.
and it's like we just come up. We're here. I'm going to come up with bullshit ideas to get past people and figure out what people want and tell them I've got it, even though I don't. And
Yep.
just all of that kind of stuff. It's like, oh no,
Just
I've got
living
it.
my life. I don't understand. I feel attacked.
For me, it's usually the situations that will define what my character is going to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I don't think I really usually know it going in for the most part. But like when I played the pig farmer, the scion of Mars,
He's great.
I love it.
I wasn't expecting to play a grumpy character, but then Adam is playing like a
Thais's fucking child
Right.
who loved Instagram. I was like, oh yeah.
he's like a YouTuber. He's
Yeah.
like, hi guys, I'm here at da 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 da, and I'm like, okay, well, my character would hate that.
Yeah, exactly.
Why are you talking into that box?
Yeah, and I think you're doing a lot of the thing that I was going to talk about as far as my character creation is always just like, it's very improv. Like you get given a gift and then you go with it and you're like, you said one thing about my personality and I will form an entire world around it.
Yeah.
And I feel like playbooks are exactly that. And you're like, all right, you told me one thing, Celestial. I didn't really read the thing. I don't know what that means. I think it means this. And then like can populate an entire like personality around it. I think just natural tendencies come through. And like if you like playing characters that are super reactionary to like the rest of the party, like that's going to be the lane you said, like, I can't help that I will snark if you give me any motive to. So I'm like, all right, I'm playing a face because I don't know how to not. Like, huh.
Play to your strengths. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to.
So
That's why I just do weird stuff all the time.
do the weird stuff. Fucking love it.
The other thing I was thinking is I have kind of discovered that I like to take two things that shouldn't go together and smoosh them together in
Yeah.
a character because then it makes for like interesting motivations. Like for the Vault game, it's post-apocalyptic and fancy.
Yeah.
Like those two things should not go together.
Right.
But the cross section of that is really fun to play with.
Yep.
We also
So-
had the angsty teenager and dragon.
Yeah,
In the-
exactly.
in the,
Angsty
Rift.
teenager and dragon.
Yeah.
And
Didn't you have
then
the supermodel squid?
Yep.
Yep.
So, like, technically should be evil Cthulhu mythos demigod on Rumspringa, because she doesn't wanna.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, these two things should not go together, and then, like, the Venn diagram of that is, like, where the fun is for me.
Right.
And I think that's the thing that we get clocked for a lot is that, like, there's a lot of, like, see the trope, acknowledge the trope, hard subvert the trope. And I think that's how you go from, like, oh, are we doing a Lord of the Rings thing? Like, fucking hard left. We're doing it. Nope. It's sci-fi now.
Fuck that ring.
Yeah. But drag queen?
Yes!
Here we go. Like, so, yeah. I think there's a...
Do you guys actually acknowledge the trope, or you? Because it sounds like you guys are really approaching characters that you just sort of want to play. Because many a time I would make a character, and it was just useful, you know. And then eventually they kind of get a personality. There's even a cartoon I think that was on the or a strip somebody posted where this guy made a joke character because it was only going to be like a one shot, and 30 sessions later he's become this integral part of the party. He's like, I've always loved you. As he's holding him, run.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the funny thing is like he's sort of making a utilitarian character, and then 30 sessions later, you're so attached to them. They've gained this personality. But you guys start right out making something really odd and interesting, rather than just going with the, well, do we have a healer? Okay. And not that either one is right or wrong. It's just that it's like you guys have never had a box around you, so you just jump right in and do whatever you want.
Make my own box.
Yeah,
You do.
I think the idea behind it is like the longer you sit in a system, the more like normal social like mores will like kick in. So if you're like, okay, I know our group needs a healer, I'm going to come in with like the wackiest version of a healer, but knowing that across a campaign you will you'll slowly like move towards like normalcy. So if you start off with something like bonkers, you know you're going to eventually get to like a playable human or elf or whatever by the end, but you don't have to necessarily start there.
You can figure out how to make it useful as
Exactly.
you go.
There's a slide towards utilitarianism. I just never enjoy coming out of the gate with it.
Now is that driven by like the gravity of the scenario put out in front of you?
It's a mixture of the scenario, and I think just the longer you live in a character and you go, like, how would this person actually respond? I think with the exception of, like, campaigns that are specifically evil or bonkers one-shots, like, you're going to start making choices that are, like, normal logic, like, playing from the top of your intelligence, like, a normal person will do this and make this choice. And those are all, like, the humanizing moments that, like, make that character an actual, like, person. You can just start off with a bonkers concept and be like, yeah, like... And I was going to do an extra bad thing, but, like, you're right here, so no.
It's fine. Just talk about me like I'm not here. It's fine.
That's awful.
That's what
I'm not,
extra Beth would
I
want.
will fucking
So you guys right out of the gate play characters you sort of really want to play. I was gonna touch on the fact that sometimes like a character gets given to me that I don't necessarily even like what they do. Like Trig. Trig was a great example.
Jackass.
I rolled out this character. He had no weapon skills. He was a traveler. He was a coward and everything. And I leaned into his faults.
Now, let me just, for those who haven't heard it, I think that
was a Star Wars.
Do we record those sessions?
I think we did. I think
it
was Star Wars.
It was Bill's Star Wars Traveler game.
Nice.
And Stork made a character, and Traveler character generation requires dice rolls.
Yeah.
Because you don't know.
So guess what kind of character Stork ended up with?
Completely useless.
Hooray!
Very few skills.
I need to work on them.
And you looked at your skill list, and I think you had like, I don't know, with a survivor career or something.
I went drifter. I was in prison at one point. I ended up in an explosion. I think I had like pilot 2, but I had no combat skills. And he was a Twi'lek. And so I leaned into the failure.
Yeah.
Right? And then there was sort of this backstory with a droid that I'd gotten through... I'd picked up this droid and I'm like, I'll hold it for you, and then the guy died, or I thought he died. Anyway, it's a whole...
or you abandoned him on a planet. Without a starship
and anyway,
to get off.
Probably died.
the character ended up just being a narcissistic, like, out for himself coward, right? And it ends up, like, when things got rough, he left the party on the planet, got in a ship, and took off. And I felt awful as a person because I don't like doing that. And I actually got to tell you that playing Trig was one of the more stressful characters I've ever played. But I leaned into that, and everybody now still remembers Trig. I get compliments on playing Trig as a villain, and I'm like, he wasn't a villain, he's just a coward. He was. You remember the guy from The Mummy? What was that guy's name? It was he was that character.
Shit.
Yeah,
the little guy.
Yeah.
Gets his comeuppance. He was that guy.
Like Ray Fiennes,
He was.
I think.
No, it wasn't. And it wasn't.
It's like a Fiennes brother.
No, it was
I
just.
think it was.
Like Lammy or something was his name.
Lammy.
He had
We're
the
gonna
fez on.
Next character I make, fucking Lammy.
But he was that type of character. But I found myself being really uncomfortable in the party, and because I just want to get along and I want to play a game, and I don't want to be at loggerheads with everybody.
But sometimes
you
it's
don't
fun
seem
to be at
care.
loggerheads. Yeah,
you just
like-
go at it.
And I think there's something like really like it's hard. I will say it's really hard, and like sometimes it gets a little harder when you're like streaming something where you're like, I'm gonna make a choice and I'm gonna get yelled at by the internet, but whatever. If every character thinks that they're the hero of their story, then even like a coward and a thief still can like explain their way to like how they got to that point. So even if it's like, yeah, like I'm a coward, but let me explain to you. And I think all of those justifications that you do in your head allow you to like feel more comfortable with your character choices. Like Faiza's a cunt. It was great. I enjoyed playing her. But like she believed wholeheartedly that like all of her choices were deliberate and intentional and like they had to be that way. And I think that allows you to like do uncomfortable things as a player while knowing that you're staying in character and like preserving the goodwill of a table where you're like, I'm not here to just be like, well, it's what my character would do. Because that is a weird excuse and can get like really
It
tense.
is, but sometimes it's true. Because with Trig, it was true.
Yeah.
It's like, he's a coward. Of course he's going to leave the middle of a firefight. What would he do?
You know, it was another one shot, or actually it was a two shot. It was one that Dave Kazay ran.
Never heard of him. I started playing with
Dave 77. MonkeyFunStudios.com. It was the one where we all played villains.
Mm-hmm.
That character made me very uncomfortable because
Yeah.
I played Svengali from Trilby, who is basically a hypnotist who can control people's minds.
Oh, that's a nightmare.
And that's
You're
pretty
the
much
man.
all my character could do. So, and we're all playing villains, and we're all trying to get something that we want out of this. The adventure was set forth, and we were all promised something that were different things, and that we were often at cross purposes. So, but the only tool I had was to basically steal a player's character agency.
Oh, that's fucking bonkers.
Oh, like when that time that I had to accidentally mind controlled Stork's character in the vampire game for like 3 years.
Right.
I felt so bad.
No.
Teach me your ways. I'm playing a Toreador now.
I didn't
and I'm
mean
gonna
To be
do it.
fair, I was pushing for that. I put you in that box where that was the only choice, and it really was. It was the right choice.
I just meant to mind control him a little bit,
Yeah,
but
but then your dice
I rolled
exploded.
way too good, and I was like, "Oh, you're
your
mesmerized
duration was
for
like a
3
year or
years."
something.
No, it was
More. It was like
three.
three or plus years. Yeah, it was crazy.
That's phenomenal.
It was like
But
off the charts kind
Stork
of thing.
did an
And
amazing job of role playing, like totally being enthralled to my character, though. After that, which I was like, I'm so sorry, and I did
No,
actually
you
feel
didn't
really
know
bad because I was like,
it was actually something I was hoping for because it
Okay.
gave me something else to do than just
Right.
be the angry grump.
yeah.
Because my backstory had been explored and used up at that point, and there was nothing left for my character really
That's
new
so
to
stressful
do.
when you're like, my arc is done.
It kinda
I'll wait
was.
here quietly till the campaign's
It
over.
kind of was, and then you gave me a whole new arc.
Brainwashed you a new arc.
Oh my god.
If we do a reunion game,
Yes,
it should
please.
it should start the day before that
Before it
mind
wears
control
off.
breaks.
Oh my god. I want this.
No, because I wrote that story. Basically, the mind control broke while he was
I haven't read
off.
the story.
okay.
Go fuck
Yeah.
off.
But
Do the
still.
game. Do the game. 3 million downloads. I request it.
Well, okay, and that also brings up a point that speaking of characters, you made some really uncomfortable choices with that character.
I did,
And you
yeah.
did some mean things to people. Like, granted, it's vampire, but I don't think of you as a mean person, but you leaned into it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
'cause-
mostly to Detective Angel Pants and his
Yes.
poor long-suffering
But
wife.
even some of the other player characters as well. I mean, I think you and Kimmy at some point, or you and Kimmy's character at some point got on loggerheads.
Oh, those are fun.
Did we?
I don't remember that.
There were some
Spoken like a true like, I don't
weren't there some
remember
power
that.
struggle issues going on at some point where
Seems
somebody
like Kimmy
wanted
had
to
a
be queen of
problem,
the
but I
island
didn't-
and you were like, didn't you manipulate your way into being the?
No, I only manipulated my way into being queen of the island when she was dead. I did take her jewelry off of her corpse. But I'm a Toreador.
Yay!
So I'm
It
gonna-
was ours.
And you did try to stop her from being murdered.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
That's not very convincing.
I mean, mostly. Listen, I didn't want to be queen, but if she was dead, I was going to do it. Because
course.
nobody else would.
Clearly, I've already put everybody
It
else
is
out of
funny
there.
though because like out of all the characters I've played, like that's the one where I had moments that I was like, oh no, I'm actually stressed out because of like having to manipulate people.
Yeah.
And that's a thing that like is atrocious to me in real life.
Sure.
So like doing it in character is like ugh. And even more so than like we played that one shot when I got to be Jack the Ripper and I was like I played him sort of caricature like and I was like, wow, this is less creepy to me than the stuff I had to do as Riley.
Right, yeah.
Well, and that's what I was going for. I mean, you definitely leaned into it. I'm going to play the old man card. Back in the day, when we were making characters and it was first or second edition
dice
D&D,
were carved out of
we
rocks.
just played fighters, and fighters were always fighters, and dwarves acted like dwarves, and elves hated dwarves. But you guys have come in completely without any of that baggage. And you
Because I don't know the
make
Lord
the
of the
most
Rings franchise.
but you do. But
Yeah.
but you still come in with these completely fresh takes on characters and things, and you want more out of role playing than we ever did when we started. I'm
Thank you.
I'm playing it up a bit, but
Yeah.
it's you guys are the role playing isn't just necessarily. Back in the day, it was literally like a video game because we didn't have video games. You would kill things, take their loot. Everybody would counting out money. Remember, we would count out money. We would distribute loot, or who gets the purple sword? Let's roll for it. Right? It was pretty much just like a video game. We're like, oh, I got the video sword, and nowadays it's less like we don't even care about the loot. I'm working on my character's journey.
Yeah.
I just
think-
want to be a horrific squid monster and do ridiculous
Yeah.
things with
That's
my
my
friends.
point.
I just want to. I have a weird relationship with fantasy and sci-fi because I never really saw myself in it as a kid. So I'm a little angry about it as an adult. So every opportunity where I get to play something, I will subvert every trope. Like, what's your dwarf? I swear to God, if this dwarf is Scottish, I'm gonna fucking stab him. Why are you Scottish? Why? So,
Have you ever met the Scots? You'll understand.
yeah, but then there's whole rails I can take about how high fantasy is extremely it's Britain, and I'm expected to understand
true.
all of those minute differences. I can hear the difference between Irish and Scottish, but if you do Tomb of Annihilation, all of that city in the jungle is all of Africa all at once. I'm like, it's a billion times bigger than Europe, and you're just gonna make it all one thing. It's just cliques and brown people. So I feel like every roleplay opportunity is an opportunity to expand on ideas. An elf can be whatever you want. And yeah, a vampire can be a sparkly vampire, which is stupid, but you can do cool things.
No, there's no. What are you talking about? Blasphemer!
Yeah. So
The outfit is sparkly, not the actual vampire.
There you go.
you know what? Fair enough. Respect. So I think that if there's any intentionality into playing a character, it's find the trope that everyone expects and then find a new way to subvert it, or what is true.
I think it
doesn't have
also
to be
keeps
what-
it interesting too, because I grew up reading sci-fi and horror and all of this stuff that we play games in now. So
Yeah.
it's I've been eating all of this content for breakfast since
Yeah.
I was 5. So playing it as it is written, it seems I've been there, I've read that. That's
Oh,
fine.
yeah,
I want to
absolutely.
do I want that, but I also want it to be this. And
Yeah.
it's you just take your favorite flavors and smoosh them around a little and make it interesting.
There you go.
Telling a story that's already been told is kind of boring.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds great. I love you.
All right. Thank you, Stu, for coming up with the topic.
Yay, good job, Stu.
I'm talking about that.
GMPCs from Fengrong or Fengrong. Who would like to read this? It could be either.
I'll do
I'm
it.
gonna go
It
with
could be either.
Fengrong because it sounds like my dog's name.
Okay.
Dude,
It sounds like a Stan Lee name from the 60s.
It does.
Fengrong was Fing Fam Boom's cousin.
yeah, exactly.
You know what? If Dahlia ever dies, you should bring Fenris over for a play date with Baloo, because I think they would get along great.
Oh yeah, when Dahlia was a puppy, they met and they were okay.
Yeah.
Fenris gets along with everybody, though.
Fenris-
She's
the best
grown
dog.
into a weirdo though.
She's a...
Some dogs are actually scared of him because he's enormous.
He is. I'm scared of him.
You just said that to the two tall people. We're like, we get it.
Yeah.
Same, Fenris. All right, dear teachers of gaming, past, present, and yet to come. I hope this letter finds you well. I am currently toiling away on Christmas Eve at the post office, delivering last-minute gifts for every good boy, girl, and non-binary person. It's been a rough one, and the only thing keeping me from steering my truck into oncoming traffic is my podcast playlist, heavily featuring Happy Jack's actual play games. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yay! I am writing to you today to quickly give my thoughts on GMPCs. My regular gaming group consists of 3 people, myself included. We have completely different work schedules and have to game whenever we get the opportunity. Our game of choice is D&D, which is balanced for parties of 3 to 5 player characters. My choice as DM comes down to balancing encounters for just 2 people, running games where combat won't ever come into play, or making a PC myself to round out the group. I don't want to deprive my players of challenging encounters, and running D&D without combat is like ordering a Long Island iced tea and receiving a glass full of ice. I like that analogy a lot. Nice.
Or just getting a glass of iced tea.
Yeah.
In Long Island.
Yeah. Which we would never go to. Never. My advice comes down to this. Run your GMPC like any non-player character. They earn a cut of the XP and loot from encounters, but at the end of the day, they are just another voice coming out of the DM, like the queen or the street meat vendor. They don't get spotlight time unless it involves another PC. They don't get to be the one that strikes the final blow in the climactic final battle with the 4,000-year-old lich that ate grandma. Your players are the heroes of your story, not you. Keep that in mind, and maybe one day GMPCs won't be the stuff of horror stories. Happy holidays, everyone. Fengrong from the interwebs.
I don't know about you, but I'm now making a street meat vendor that serves grandmas.
I'll go last.
Okay.
Because you know what I'm going to
Tune in on the 14th, because I get to run D&D, and there's going to be a weird thing.
I'm not a fan of GMPCs because I have a really hard time multitasking as it is. I have a really hard time just GMing as it is, and I can't even imagine not having a PC and not letting what knowledge I have seep in. I just can't do it. I cannot do it, and so I don't. Because it's not fair to the party, because I'm going to fuck it up. I'm going to spill secrets, or I'm going to... doing wrong, he steps in. I can't help myself. So I just nope. If you you'll have to make your own NPC, and he'll just be standing around until you tell him what to do. But I can't run it.
Yeah. I mean, I like running NPCs that like boost like and round out parties. Like, I don't know, in the game that I was running, I had to keep like the 2 little introductory NPCs in the background because I was like, they're gonna fuck up this encounter with a beholder, and I need to not kill one of the player characters, so they're like on standby to be like fodder.
Meat shield.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh no, yeah. So
And then
I don't think I've ever actually tried to run a PC like as a GM. I don't know. I feel like I would go to NPCs.
back in the day,
based
it
on
was
the
kind of
thing.
common. People used to like there was a party, and then you would have your player character too, or your character too. But back then we were just getting loot, so it didn't really matter.
Yeah.
The problem here is there's a semantic issue. Because, like every other freaking word in this hobby, no one really knows what GMPC means.
Yeah.
And the definition I've kind of come up with over the last 9 years of getting horror stories about GMPCs is a GMPC is a non-player character that has transcended from a non-player character into the GM's character.
Okay. Yeah.
They're like a
Or-
featured extra.
Or it is
Right.
actually a character that the GM has run before in another game, has made an appearance now in this world. Because I played in that game.
Right.
Not currently, but back in the day,
Oh, yeah.
suddenly the GM's character is like, oh yeah, Almeric now appears. And you're like, isn't that your guy from the other game that he's GMing? Oh, great. Neat.
How is that not just an NPC? Like, you're the GM. You're literally everyone that isn't the
Right.
other fuckers at the table.
Yeah.
The difference has to do with the GM's perspective on the character.
Okay.
Because the GM is supposed to be a fan of the player characters.
Yeah.
That should not include any of the NPCs the GM is portraying. Okay. You can have favorites. You can have ones you like and ones that you don't like, and ones you enjoy portraying and ones that you don't, or don't put any thought into, or whatever. But when the GM starts investing themselves the same way a player invests in their character, that's when I think you cross the line between an NPC and a GMPC.
I think you're very right.
With that definition, GMPCs are a bad thing to be avoided.
Right. But see, not a lot of people see it as that.
Yeah.
But he says the thing that I've said before, which is, if you got you have a party and there's no healer or there's no DPS, range DPS guy or whatever, or whatever you need to fill out the usefulness of the party. So the GM makes an NPC to fill that role. It's just an NPC, and it should just remain an NPC.
Yeah.
Yes, it might get XP, maybe, and level up as the party levels up. Maybe it's a hireling that the party has brought in. It's like, oh, we need a healer. You want to come in? You can have a cut of the loot, or however they want to handle it. But if it gets to the point where the GM starts thinking of one of these NPCs as their character, quote unquote, their character, that's when I think you start to run into problems. Because then you're going to start to have competition for loot.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, it's this. Well, my character can really now.
And my character knows like which body to check. Like, oh, I found the ring first. Like, yeah, you wrote it. Fuck off.
You put that there.
I think most mature GMs wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
That's not where the problem is. And I don't think most mature GMs who are running a character that's filling a void within a party are actually playing GMPCs the way I think of it.
Yeah.
They're playing NPCs. It's just another character.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think the moment you have your players are the heroes of the story, not you, I think that qualifies that as you're just playing good NPCs. Like,
Right.
you're doing it.
It's a
Maybe they're
slippery slope,
fancier
though.
than the crowd of NPCs, but
Yeah.
as long as the players are the hierarchy is right, like player characters, maybe this featured extra GMPC, and then all other
Featured extra.
all other GMPCs.
And only because you need to spend a little more attention, because
Yeah.
if you've got XP and the character's leveling up, you have to spend a little more brain power on the
Exactly.
NPC
in order
than
to
the
keep
others.
them useful to the party,
Right.
especially
They have a
where
character sheet.
you have like he has his game is only 2-player characters, so they need somebody else
Yeah.
Right.
in the mix.
It's a slippery slope though, because after 5 or 6 dungeon crawls or whatever, you start to get attached to the character. The player characters are attached to the character, and you think to yourself, well, Thordrak, the fighter, has got to leave now. I've got to get rid of him because he's getting to be too much part of this party. They start asking me, and I'm having too much fun with it. I mean, that would be the mature thing to do, but I don't think people do that.
Well, see, I think there are some warning signs that you're going from NPC territory to GMPC territory.
Yeah.
When the players are sitting down discussing what they're going to do, like, okay, we're at a crossroads, we need to decide we're going to go left or right. If your NPC has a role in that conversation, you need to kill that
It's a
character in
Des
the next
Machina
combat.
right
Yeah.
You
there.
need to kill that character.
Yeah.
Right?
Because the GM has no business
No.
interjecting when they know the right answer or they know what happens in which directions, whether or not they're being misleading by having the GMPC say, go left because left,
Right.
there's trolls left, or if they're actually trying to steer the party in a direction. The temptation to do that, I think, especially if you have a plan on what the way the adventure is going to go, it's a really powerful way to sort of force things to go that way,
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
unwittingly.
And that's
Yeah.
what I was trying to say when I
Right.
You're
prefaced this
absolutely
originally. And it's a slippery slope because despite yourself, you might get attached to an NPC.
Yep.
And before you know it, you're like, I got to kill this dude off. I mean, if you're a mature person, but I don't think people know that. I don't think people think there's anything wrong with it. And
Well,
I think-
some. I think most of the people who listen to the show would go, yeah, if you're going to do it, you got to be careful.
Yeah.
You got to be careful.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you can always kill them. You can always kill them off. You can say, I'm going to have this when you
Or they
make
can leave.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
oh, I
They
got
don't
enough
have
fun.
us.
I got enough fun.
Yeah.
I'm going.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
right, or they have a story reason for
Yeah.
leaving. Oh, and my parents live in this town. I'm going to stay here. Bye, guys.
Right.
Find yourself another healer.
Yeah.
And then you make a different healer who isn't his brother who's avenging his death.
Yeah, exactly. I think I don't know if you noticed it when I was setting up for the last game. You saw my little DM screen.
Mm-hmm.
The most important thing I have on there is a little sticky. This is so melodramatic to say out loud. There's a little sticky note that says love the players and nothing is sacred for mine, because I love the things that I build. I love all of my NPCs, and it's really hard. I have to have a physical reminder these mean nothing.
You know what?
Let them go.
Kudos.
It's
That's
so fucking
so
dramatic.
smart
I'm
of you to know that
oh,
about
I like
yourself.
this. Oh, no.
To be so self-aware that way.
Kill her.
Because I can tell you invest a lot in your NPCs.
Yeah, I love my
your
NPCs.
gnomish pawn shop owner was astonishing.
Love.
But to know that you know that,
Yeah.
to know that this is a problem of mine, I get so attached to
Yeah.
them.
I love them so hard. I'm going to bring them back 19 times. Fuck off. This
Good
is
on
about
you, though.
them.
Good on you.
We
Stop
need
it.
to have another episode about GM screens.
Yeah.
Because when I don't never have space for one
Yeah.
anymore because I have so many fucking computers in front of me now. But one of the things I always put on mine, because you always put notes to yourself on the things you're deficient about,
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
Mine are remember smells and sounds.
Yes. Oh my God.
Because
How
I
does
always
something
remember
smell?
to describe what things look like, but I
Yep.
never remember to do the other.
I have a
and
smell
that's-
one too.
Right.
Yeah, that's really good.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
That's really, this is actually that'd make a great episode. Well,
Yeah.
We've done it
pin in
before.
that.
We've done it before.
Sooner or later.
Yeah.
But
feel
like the
like
notes to yourself. I'm
I
sorry.
feel like I'm always asking you, what kind of footwear is the NPC wearing?
There's a one in a redheaded just for Sam. They're
very
all wearing
good.
sensible pumps.
That's very good.
Inevitably, every character is like, what kind of footwear situation are we talking about here?
It's a woman.
Yeah, and I have to say, back in the day, there weren't a lot of women who gamed with us.
Yeah.
Probably intentionally, on their part. But there,
Thank you for that.
but there were. I have had to answer questions with women at tables. I've never had to answer when the table is all guys.
Yeah.
I've been asked on footwear or on clothing, which no one ever asks unless
Yeah.
it's armor.
Yeah. Right?
The footwear question is usually because I either want to use it as a weapon or want to attack their feet.
Right. I've been asked on eye color and
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff that I've never been asked. I mean,
Lady thirst is real. Give me a hot, 1 to 10.
How hot is this orc?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's a thing that happens.
interaction. Yeah. I'm nice to pretty people. I know that about myself.
So now when I make NPCs, I try to conceptualize what they might look like as entirely as I can. I don't write it all down because
Yeah.
that would drive me insane. But I try to like figure out, okay, who's this guy? What's this guy look like, or what's this woman look like? And like I'm not making a lot of NPCs, but I'm doing a lot of prep for the Mongoose Traveler game I'm going to be running starting in January.
Yay!
And a lot of the stuff I'm coming up with right now has a lot to do with not just the physical descriptions of things, but how they behave. And also, for the few NPCs I've done, because I haven't done a lot of NPCs yet, I am thinking about where are they social status wise?
Yeah.
How do they look? How do they behave? And things that normally in teenage boy games, can I kill it, or is it going to give me something for free?
Yeah, accurate. I mean, if you want
And then once
me
it
to
gives
help
me something
make
for
some-
free, I'm going to kill it.
Exactly. If you need some help with like Pinterest boards, I got you. Like, I have 3 fucking Pinterest boards, like shit from my wedding, all my RP stuff, and like food I'm never gonna get around to making.
Yeah. I have Pinterest boards that are like clothes that I think this character that I have to wear.
Exactly. Shit. It's like broken down. I'm like all my NPCs have boards. Like, I love it.
I have a Pinterest account, and I was looking for stuff, samurai stuff when I was running the L5R game, and I was thinking about running a pirate game at one point, or a tall ship game. I don't remember what it was, but I'd like put in a couple of keywords for pirates, and you know the Dread Crew of Oddwood?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
One of the members of the Dread Crew of Oddwood, his picture came up at fair, drunk making out with some girl in a bench in the middle of the food court.
Busted. Fucking
Perfect.
mwah.
I'll say who it was off air.
I'm pretty sure I know who it was.
It was hysterical. And I'm like, oh man, I gotta post this on Facebook.
Yes.
And they're like, no, I'm not gonna post this on Facebook.
It defends the same, not that she needs defending, but even Sherlock Holmes would look at people's feet in footwear, because you can tell a lot about, whether they are hard worker, whether they're fashionable, whether they got mud on their boots, what type of boots they're wearing. You can tell a lot about a
Footwear
character.
is
from their-
useful. We had at
I'm going to
least
start asking that question
3
more often.
footwear-based fights in the vampire game.
Very good.
Oh,
You did.
you had those special
Yeah.
spiked heels that
Yeah.
was
Threw
actually
my
a wooden
IRL
stake.
shoes that I was wearing to the game at an enemy in
You
game.
did.
I love you.
You did.
'Cause I took
Poor
one,
Adora will
I
learn
took
so
one
much
off
from
and I was
her.
like, Stu, can I be wearing this in game? Because I want to throw it at somebody.
At some point, all the women realized that, like, hey, there's wood in the bottoms of these stilettos.
Yeah.
We can actually stake vampires with
Yeah.
them.
Yep.
And then Kimmy's staking it. Yours, it was stiletto.
So much footwear-based violence.
So good. If you've ever been stepped on by a stiletto, you're like, violence
God.
has occurred here. I want to weaponize. Ow. Yeah, I'm really weirdly kinky. I like that.
I was just starting to think of,
Yeah.
was it The Tick where American Maid would throw her shoe?
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Was she called American Maid in that
I don't
scene?
remember. I don't remember.
I think
It's
she had
awful.
American Maid is actually the canon from the comics, right?
Ah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm asking.
I think so.
I do not remember.
I don't remember either.
It's been a hot
Because I know they had the comics and the cartoon, or was she in the cartoon, or was she in?
She was. There
Or she's
was,
the
The live
first live
action.
was a
action.
type of character in the cartoon. Yes, I remember it.
Yeah, they had different names. Because one of
They did.
Because
There
like,
was Batman Well, and then
who was actually Deflator Mouse?
Deflator Mouse, right?
I found it. I have a small stash of
Tick cartoons.
tick comic books.
Nice.
If you guys don't know what we're talking about, go Google the Tick comic. The one from, is it 80s, 90s? Mid-90s? Early 90s?
Well, there was
I mean, people know what it is now because it's on
there was the
Amazon,
cartoon,
Yeah.
which was awesome. Mm-hmm. Then there was the first live action show, which I personally thought was horrible because I didn't. It was.
Didn't like it.
I didn't like. Good,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
And then there's the new one, which I kind of like.
I haven't finished the second half of the first season, but
Not
the
as
first half
good
of
as
it.
the first half.
That's what I figured. It's why my brain was like,
Tim and I watched the first half, and we were like, this is actually pretty funny. And then the second half started, and we were like, did they change all the writers?
oh no, disappointment.
But I like the guy who's playing the Tick
Yes.
because
Yeah.
he has the kind of crazy
Yeah.
eyes.
He's great. Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, the
I like
first
the guy
half
playing
I
Arthur,
liked.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm proud.
Next.
All right, you don't know what you have till it's gone from Riff. Who would like to read? You don't know what you have
can read
till
it.
it's gone
Goes.
from Riff.
I will do it. Season's greetings, you jolly bags of vinegar. First and foremost, thank you for being there, even when my usual group couldn't.
Aw.
I don't know if I could have stayed sane without you.
Wow.
Ahead comes the
Holiday
story.
blues here for all of our emails.
Yeah, holidays are like
Driving
fucking
into traffic
stressful.
It's difficult.
Yeah.
Ahead comes the story of a micro horror and a return to gaming contentment. Drink where needed, this whines a bit. So it's been a very busy year, and I had to step away from the hobby. As life started to settle down, I was invited to join a coworker's vampire game. 2nd edition? Sweet, I've got a chunk the book still and played for years. I know these rules, and it's not Pathfinder. I'm burning out on that. Let's do this. So I ask some questions and find out I'll be one of 2 players with experience, and the others will be TTRPG virgins. Okay, no big deal. I'll make a legal but ineffective older vampire jack of all trades that can cover gaps and can act as a mentor/shepherd as needed. Other experienced play will be breaking his form by playing a brute of a bruja. Cool. Between the 2 of us, we can cover a lot of the stereotypical tropes. Now our newbies will be playing 2 Malkavians
Oh no.
and a Tremere fire mage. This might have been the... in quotes,
I
fire
love
mage.
that I don't know
Might.
enough about vampire yet, and I'm like, I know that word.
Fire bad.
Yeah.
Vampires and
Vampires.
fire don't mix.
Yeah.
Maybe
They
don't.
hate it.
This might have been the first flag, but I gave the benefit of the doubt. Now, before I continue, allow me to explain something interesting about this group. With the exception of me, all of them have ties to the local theater scene.
Of course they fucking do. They want to play TTRPGs.
Right.
The first few sessions, every other week, are pure joy, but also chaos and wheel spinning. The only plot we get over 3 sessions are the new regime are not following modern Camarilla rules, and someone is killing Ventru. We've now had another player join and then drop after 1 session. A daring rescue and some little action shines upon us in the 3rd session, but this is my first red flag. Turns out these 3 rounds of combat show me 3 things. 1, my storyteller doesn't know the combat rules.
That's not so bad. Sorry.
2, hand waving is a specialty here.
Uh-oh.
What?
And 3, it will be hard to have physical combat have any consequences as the storyteller neither wants to kill off characters nor allow his NPCs to die either.
All right,
That's-
kill your fucking darlings, y'all.
That does seem like a
It
problem.
is hard in vampire, though. Unless you got werewolves, because vampires are pretty tenacious.
Well, if the
That's how
storyteller's
you
like,
kill
I don't want my
vampires.
NPCs to go
Sorry.
wolves. Like, if the storyteller's like, not my NPCs, you're like, all right, fuck off, you're the problem.
Yes.
yeah.
That's what they're there for. Well, some of them are there for
Yeah.
Yeah. I stuck it out, and for my trouble, became a mini storyteller. When combat came up, I was expected to arbitrate the rules.
Nice.
This was an okay solution as long as I wasn't in combat, but for the most part, things were going smoothly until October.
Uh-oh.
Plays and real-life trauma got in the way of some games, and then plot presented something interesting. The group behind the Ventru killings, we had targets and permission. Now, real-world drama gets in the middle of this, and I'll save that for later in the email. Feel free to skip it. In my last session, I am standing face-to-face with the target, a non-combat target, and there is no excuse not to try for it. What comes next can only be honestly called plot immunity, even admitted by the GM.
Boo.
And fine, I can let pacing slide. We'll get there later. Then, as I said, real life got in the way, and I missed the next session. And one of the other players fills me in on what was missed. 2 kills because they did it the GM's way. I haven't been back.
Ugh.
What does that mean? 2 kills because they did it the GM?
Yeah, they got the kills done in the session that this person missed because, like, they did it the way the GM would allow.
Oh.
So he or she tried to do it, like, their way, and they were like, no, immune.
Right.
Yeah. Wow, that sucks.
In the meantime, I host a Halloween mini-campaign every October. Extra special as this would break in the gaming room in our new house. I fought hard to get the logistics to line up to invite a couple from the vampire game to join my old group, of correctional officers mostly.
Cool.
And while that never panned out, my old group has started another Pathfinder campaign and seems to be having a blast. Life gets in the way, so we get a month of weekly games and then a month down, rotating schedules. But this group and this game brings nothing but joy.
Thanks.
Clean break for real world stuff, it says.
No, he put as a disclaimer here, but I read it and I don't see anything that's.
Seem okay?
Yeah, it seems fine to me.
Do you want me to
Although
read it?
I was, drunk at the time when I read it, but no, I'm kidding.
Okay.
It seems fine. I didn't see anything in there that I found objectionable.
Okay.
I didn't know what CO meant because I didn't actually read the first part of the email, but now I know that means correctional officer.
Yay.
So go ahead.
Aha. Okay. A, the storyteller in the vampire game is an awesome person when he isn't fighting depression. I'm still his friend and will always invite him and his husband to join my table. I doubt he ever will, as he made it clear D20 systems bring out the worst in people, and he fears my old group would be full of dude bros. He assures me this wasn't an insult. I disagree. I did talk to him, and I'm not sure our playstyles mesh after all. As far as my old group reacting when given a friendly, "Hey, you old hand COs, a nice gay couple might be joining us. Can we behave like grown-ups the first few sessions before embarrassing ourselves? Kind of talk like adults?" Their reaction was pure joy. New players? That might think of new and fun ways to ruin my GM plans? Huzzah! And the more the merrier. Do you know what type of soda they like? I've never been so prouder of my knuckleheads. Yeah, they don't like to try new systems, but why should they? They've never had a bad game with either of our rotating GMs. What they don't know is one has years of Happy Jacks training and the other learned it all from the first.
Nice.
So I won't be lamenting my old comfy boots just because they're the same they've always been.
Nice.
You guys entertain, inspire, and fill the gap when I can't make it to a table. Thanks to you for being there. Drink! Riff from Texas.
Yay!
Cheers. Hopefully Riff on the new forum. P.S. Are we still doing multiple P.S.s?
Yes, we are.
Yeah,
P.S.
clearly.
How do you spell multiple P.S.s?
That says species.
P.P.P.S. Drink until you know.
There you go.
Goodbye.
Brea figured it out already. We can't drink anymore. She
I'm
answered it.
sorry. Yeah.
I like these sort of like mini questions like this. It's funny sometimes when you're stuck in a group and you get in that rut, and sometimes the only solution is having a new group or taking a long break, and you get perspective,
Or
Yeah.
throwing some wrench throw.
or bringing in new people or whatever. But it is sometimes you don't even know it. You just have settled into the same old ropes and stuff, and it can be uncomfortable if you go to a con and you play a game and suddenly this GM is doing things and saying things and you don't know if you like it. Do you like it? Is it right? But that's
sexy.
It is. It is. It's like a first
Thank
date.
you for
You're
saying
like you're
it. I was
not
thinking the same thing.
you're not at all like my dead wife.
That starts making it weird.
Well, that's kind of
He's
what
one
it
of
is.
us now.
If you were in a long-running campaign and then you go to a con, all of a sudden it's like, wow, there was a long-running campaign or with a group of people that you don't talk to anymore. It's like a.
Oh, that's why people should go to cons.
I think so.
When you go to cons and play under GMs you've never met before, with players you've never met before, you have an entirely different gaming experience. You might have a horrible gaming experience,
Right.
Yeah.
and you might learn what not to do. But
Yeah.
every so often, I mean, it's like I've said, every time because I very rarely play, but every time I've played in a game with a different GM, I pick up something about GMing.
Yeah.
I pick
a
up
lot
some.
of times is what not to do.
Sometimes it is, but a lot of times
also good.
a lot of times it's like, I never thought of that.
Yeah.
You know, I'll go back to a very old story, which I have not told in a long time. We ran a Savage Worlds fantasy game. What was his name? He was one of the B team, the one who lives way out and we never see anymore.
Kurt.
No,
I love you, Kurt.
I can't remember his name.
We had a lot of them.
Oh, but he and I co-GM.
Bill.
No, not Bill.
I love you, Bill.
Anyway, he and I were talking about doing a fantasy game. Together we sort of collaborated on this fantasy setting, and then we would sort of take turns GMing. And I watched him, and he GM'd in a very. He would sort of like fast forward through some of the more mundane stuff. And make suggestions to the players, like, okay, yeah, you hear a noise out in the distance. So do you want to like step out into the forest to see if you can get a view of whatever it is? I never did that. I was always the, okay, you hear a noise in the forest.
Yeah.
Right.
What are you gonna do?
You're not going to lead them on.
Yeah.
His way was faster, and he would make suggestions, and his players especially knew he wasn't trying to trap them in anything.
Sure.
And it just sort of sped up the process.
He was clarifying the situation. Do you hear a sound? Do you want to step out
Right.
where you can hear it better, or do you?
And I'm suggesting that because once you step off the trail, I'm not going to murder you.
Right.
Yeah.
Basically.
Right.
Yeah.
But and other GMs at cons and stuff like that, you pick up things, either what to do or what not to do, or just different ways of doing things or different ways of portraying NPCs and things like that. And so I think it's very valuable to play with different groups.
I completely agree with, especially with different GMs, because it can make even the same system you've been playing for years seem completely fresh and new. I can't tell you how many times I've played D&D, and then you go to a con and suddenly you're playing under somebody you've never met before, and it's like, oh, is this the same game? This is so radically different.
It's
It's
all
got a different
shocking.
feel.
You guys had to come to a con.
I've been to one, and I played in. I've been to Strategic Con like twice.
Hashtag no randos.
I mean, here's the thing, like the devil's advocate thing I wanted to mention, and I think like our poster or our emailer Riff, his name is Riff. Riff was mentioning this with the couple that was a little skittish to hang out with the Dude Bros. Is like there are groups that like, or like populations of people who are like, I like RPGs, but I do know that like this is setting me like up for like a vulnerable moment.
Sure.
And there are some people who are just like, I don't necessarily want to walk into this.
Oh, yeah.
It could be a little weird.
Oh,
So like I get it. Like yes, there's always something interesting to be gained, but like there is an emotional like risk you're taking whenever you like enter into those. So
I get
Yeah,
that.
totally.
I totally
Yeah.
get that.
It's
just
I
throwing
think
that out there.
part for me it's more my hashtag no randos is a joke, you guys. For reals though, I am an introvert though, so and like I mean, you guys saw the first game I ever played with you guys was the vampire game, and it took me a while to like warm up.
Oh, sure.
So like, because Kimmy was the only one I knew,
Right.
and like
I
now
only know
I'm
Kimmy.
full on squid monster, and it's fine. But when you're unfamiliar with people,
Oh, yeah.
it can be a little bit like, oh god, what's
Yeah, I can't
happening?
imagine a worse nightmare for Sam is to walk into a place full of random people that you don't know and then try to do
Who
something.
all know
I am
you.
extra Beth.
Right, and who
The
actually know
correct
you,
answer-
yeah.
The correct answer is you sign up as a group for a con, so it's just a new GM and a bunch of your friends. You're like, good luck. We all know each other and we're assholes.
And you know what, though, Sam? That is a fair critique, because I know that this industry has a lot of introverts that play, and it's hard. I can't imagine a lot of people. The scariest thing in the world would be walking into a con and sitting down at a table with a bunch of people you don't know, and have because it's kind of an intimate experience, especially the way you
Yeah.
play, to let yourself go that way. And I can see that. However, the opposite part of me says you can experience a lot of new things and different things by putting and as I always say, a con is only 4 hours. So even as
Con
weird as
game.
it is, a con game is only
Yeah.
4 hours.
These
Sometimes
conventions are very
usually
short.
less. You can flee the room at the end of that 4 hours and no harm done, and you'll never see them
it's a
again.
long time.
You
to
can
have
also-
It's a
anxiety.
long time.
You can also leave whenever the fuck you want.
That's the-
because
yeah.
they're strangers.
Just Zoidberg away. Woo!
Yeah, just like, oh, is that? And you just pretend that someone outside is calling for you, and you're like, oh, let me just. And then you get up and fucking.
Sorry,
leave.
my dog just called me. I
Yeah,
have to go.
that's the start. Anyways, what do you need, my dude?
Well, we're talking about streaming games at the next con too.
I'm gonna run something there, so come fucking
Very
play,
cool.
Sam.
I might actually be more comfortable running something.
Yeah, it may be like whatever current.
Because then I'm in charge of how weird it is. And if they don't like it, they can get
Right.
out of my table.
Yeah.
Right.
Then their dog. Then Fenris can call them.
Yeah.
And be like,
Well,
sorry, my
I'm
dog
not
is
sure
calling.
if it may be existing APs. Like if we're running APs, we'll run a session at.
Oh, that's
That
cool.
I'm
could
not
be
sure.
fun.
I'm not sure. We're still trying to
Nice.
figure out
I
exactly.
would
what we're
definitely
doing.
do that.
I want
That's
to
a
run.
teaser, is what you're doing there.
Yeah.
No, here's what I want. I want to run an AP like world, but then only have strangers in it. Like I will run Waterdeep, but with strangers, and be like, "Fuck you guys, you're
Yeah, I
other
did.
adventurers."
I
Let's
did.
go."
I did. Well, I was going to do that for the Inukai, one
Yeah,
of the earlier
yeah.
Inukai games. I didn't get a chance to do it, but I've done it for other games. I don't remember which ones I've done it for.
Yes, I remember that. You had NPCs at the con, and they actually had impact on the
Yes.
game that we were playing.
That's
Yeah.
cool as fuck.
Yeah, but that was regular con games. It's like, okay, for those of you who watch the AP, this is part of this setting. Did I do one in Vampire? No, I don't remember. I
No,
don't
you
remember
had
what it
that
was.
side session in Vampire that you guys all played alternate
Oh
characters.
yeah, we had the Kindred one.
that's
side
right,
session.
yeah, right.
Which was super fun, and
Fun.
I got to be that crazy Malkavian who like took on the soul part of the soul of the person she ate.
Oh, right.
So like occasionally I ate somebody, and then I was like a lawyer from the Bronx for a minute.
Maybe a soul like a panini, because that was the panini bite I just saw. And I was like,
I was not part of that game, but the stuff that happened in that game had echoes throughout the rest of the Vampire game.
Oh, yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Because it involved time travel.
The stuff that happened there was pivotal to your game.
Yes.
Yeah, that was fun.
"Come with me to Strategicon. We'll be weird together."
Okay.
Sweet.
And we hang out at the bar. We have a big table that we all hang out at.
I like that part. Yeah,
It's fun.
I'm into it.
Sign up for one game, and I suggest a toon game if you can, because then you can just be whacking it down, and it's usually done in about 3 hours, and then you can drink at the bar. So you just do one game.
Or you could sign up for a game where you know who the GM is.
Yeah.
Be the GM.
Well, let's take a buddy. It'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly. Bring like 2 buddies, and then
And
you
you
get
don't
2
have to
strangers.
commit. You don't have to get a room. You can just I gotta go by, and that way you can just do the.
Right.
the
And
day.
one of the things I will often do, because I usually run 4 or 5 player games, because 1 or 2 people will want to play, and so they don't have to sign up for it; they just show up.
Yeah.
So I can always do something like that.
Okay,
Sweet.
I like it.
But it's a fun experience, because I kind of consider myself an introvert in a lot of ways, even though I perform on stage. But that's a different thing.
Oh, it
That's
is.
totally
Yeah.
different.
Super
Oh, it
different.
is.
But you get me in a party where I don't know anyone except the host, I clam the fuck up.
My brother
Nice.
is the extrovert of the family. I'm actually the introvert. Seriously.
Wow.
Seriously.
Sorry.
I'm not that extroverted. I'm much more the guy that was sitting in the room drawing all day long.
Right.
And reading books. And my brother was out partying and doing that. He's much more the extrovert.
Things actual extroverts are not surprised to hear. Like, yeah, you bunch of introverts. But it's cool. Like, I think that's why TTRPGs are such a fun thing. Like, they're a safe way and, like, a controlled environment.
Usually a safe way.
Yeah. Sorry. Assuming, like, a table where you've optimized for, like, your comfort. Like, they're a safe way to explore. Yeah.
Yeah.
The next guy, they're a safe way to explore, like, things that, like, normal parts of your personality are, like, difficult to, like, let out. So you
Yeah.
can, like, kind of offset them with, like, my character's doing it.
I don't know
so
what you're talking about, Rupert. Yeah, I just play fighters and they kill things and they take their loot and we leave. We move on. I don't know what this whole exploring
Nope.
emotions in the
All
fields.
like, fuck off. I have run the most, like, just item grindy game. You're still exploring some part of your
There's
personality.
no feels.
Yeah,
It's always feels.
definitely.
Fucking always feelings.
See, that's another thing we didn't have back in the day when we didn't have women playing our games.
Right?
No feelings?
No, we
Yeah.
didn't have feelings at all.
You had feelings.
High Guy Gaxing never mentioned the feels at all in
No,
those paragraphs. There was
and
no
I've read
feels.
the whole DMG.
Yeah, twice. Because it took me about 5 times through to understand it.
Well, I bought the DMG companion. Where it
crib notes.
No, it explains Hygagaxian.
It's like a Rosetta Stone.
Right. Did you ever read his book Role Playing Mastery?
Why would I do that to myself? No.
It made my brain. It made my brain melt.
It's like,
no.
that's like reading the Iliad in the original Latin. Why would I do that?
It was in Greek, but okay. I'm so
Excellent.
sorry. I disappeared up my own house. I felt the habit of going to Ouroboros of actual.
It brings me so much joy.
I'm so sorry. I felt my body do. I was like, no. I couldn't take it back.
It's awesome, though.
But still, like, I think even if you're like a bunch of like 12-year-old boys sitting around just like fighting stuff and getting like, you're still doing this like proto-socialization thing that even if you're not directly acknowledging your feels, you are learning how to interact
Totally.
Yes.
with other people and situations. And
Yeah.
fuck off. There's always feelings.
It's a very social activity.
Yeah.
It is for a bunch of introverted nerds in their parents' basements, which is the
That's where
that's
we
the
are
trope.
being bred, yes.
And there's a reason that trope exists because a bunch of these people are introverts. It is as social as an introvert can get, is by getting together and gaming. I mean, that's pretty much what they did with
Stranger Things.
Stranger Things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Right. And these guys are a bunch of introverts, the outcasts or whatever. And so, yes, it is a very social thing. I've always said that D&D night is pretty much just like poker with the guys night. Like
For sure.
That's an Oscar.
Oh yeah, it's
and
just
Felix
way
would
more
go with poker.
interesting because you get to
It
be
is.
some sort of monster.
Yeah,
Great.
it is how parties work when you like watch movies about like what prom is like. That's just what extroverts are like. They're just doing D&D things. Except
It's
they're
a
putting
reason
their
to get
own
together.
actual reputations on the line and making horrible choices.
It's a reason to get together, drink alcohol with your friends, smoke cigars, if depending on the company, and
12-year-old kids smoking
and
cigars,
just play. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
I agree.
Yay, RPGs.
Right. Who was that email from?
Riff.
That was
Riff.
Riff.
Thank you, Riff.
Thank you,
I'm gonna
Riff.
call him Riff.
All right, and that's it. We're
Or Riff Randall
Riff. I don't know.
from Rock and Roll High School.
I've never seen that. It's
The
on my
Ramones.
list.
I have not seen it either.
Rock and Roll. Okay, never
I
mind.
don't think I've seen one.
Go. It's the Ramones movie.
Never heard of him.
Oh, my sweet summer child.
I want to
Ramones are coming.
The Ramones are the gods of three-chord rock.
I'm kidding. I got you.
All right. Green Day would not exist without the Ramones.
Respect.
And I forgot to record the episode. I'll get it off YouTube.
That's up to you.
That's
Up
so
or down.
good.
I'll get it off YouTube. It just takes an extra half hour.
That's
No
on
downloads
you.
on this one. We stop at 3 million.
Right.
That's
We're
it.
done. We're at 3 million. We're good.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
mic drop.
I like how many people were like, thanks to this podcast, and we're like, what podcast?
I also record on the streaming computer, so I can pull the enormous 8 gigabyte video
Jesus.
file and scrape the audio off.
Yeah.
Which is what I'll probably do, because that audio is usually better.
Nice.
So I'm going to end it.
Huzzah!
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for all the questions.
We have a song first.
We do.
Oh.
Thank you for joining us for season 23, episode 11 of Happy Jack's RPG podcast. My name is Stu.
Samantha.
Abria!
Stork.
Or Belch, as you were when you started. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in the new year.
Yay!
We might be playing L5R on Sunday, and if we do, it is probably the last session.
Oh, shit.
Spoilers. Well, I'm planning it to be the last session. The Inukai family will either die or go on. I don't know which.
I don't know
Low
either.
stakes.
I'll let the D10s decide.
Nice.
Thank you very
Nice.
much. We'll leave with a song.
Whiskey, you're the devil, you're leading me astray. Over hills and mountains into America. You're sweeter, kinder, decenter, you're spunkier than Tay. Oh, whiskey, you're my darling, drunk or sober.
So now, brave boys, we're on the march and off to Portugal and Spain. Drums are beating, banners fly, and the devils all home will come tonight. Oh, love, fare thee well. With me tither-yaddle-doodle-dum-a-da, me tither-yaddle-doodle-dum-a-da. Me rakes fall to the laddie, oh, there's whiskey in the jar.
Oh, whiskey, you're the devil, you're leading me astray. Over hills and mountains into America. You're sweeter, kinder, decenter, you're spunkier than Tay. Oh, whiskey, you're my darling, drunk or sober.
Well, the French are fighting boldly, men are dying hot and coldly. Give every man his flask of powder, his firelock on his shoulder. Oh, love, fare thee well. With me tither-yaddle-doodle-dum-a-da, me tither-yaddle-doodle-dum-a-da. Me writes full to a laddie, oh, there's whiskey in the jar.
Oh, whiskey, you're the devil, you're leading me astray. Over hills and mountains into America. You're sweeter, kinder, decenter, you're spunkier than Tay. Oh, whiskey, you're my darling, drunk or sober.
Says the mother, don't you wrong me, don't take me daughter from me. For if you do, I will torment you, and after death me ghost will haunt you. Love, fare thee well. With me tither-yaddle-doodle-dum-a-da, me tither-yaddle-doodle-dum-a-da. Me right full to a laddie, oh, there's whiskey in the jar.
Oh, whiskey, you're the devil, you're leading me astray. Over hills and mountains into America. You're sweeter, kinder, decenter, you're spunkier than Tay. Oh, whiskey, you're my darling, drunk or sober. Oh, whiskey, you're the devil, you're leading me astray. Over hills and mountains into America. You're sweeter, kinder, decenter, you're spunkier than Tay. Oh, whiskey, you're my darling, drunk or sober.
The preceding program has been a presentation of the Angry Folk Media Empire.
Why problem make when you no problem have you don't want to make?